And we're back with Melissa Dinwiddie, who shared some amazing tips on how to kickstart your meeting and make it really fun. So, Melissa, I have a follow-up question for that, which, by the way, I love the annotate one. I have used that one. I've tried it out in my own internal meetings, and it gets such rave reviews all the time with the annotate one. So I encourage everyone to do that. But let's say, so you've used some of that to kickstart your meeting. How do you keep people's attention now throughout the meeting as you're kind of going through maybe some more formal stuff, or however, if you're in a corporate meeting, how can you keep people's attention as speakers, as meeting leaders? How do you keep their attention?
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. So I have this concept that I did not invent this, but one of the problems with so many meetings, and particularly virtual meetings, is that they become talking heads,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
And I mean, it's a problem in person, but and it is a problem in person because, what do we have in person? We've got these devices, right? So
Right.
if you're speaking at, in an auditorium or something, there's no guarantee that people are actually paying attention because they might very well be looking at one of these.
Hopefully
But
they're
it's
tweeting about what you're saying and they're taking copious notes. That's what we like to assume, but may not
we
always be
like
the
to hope
case.
that. There's no guarantee, but we do like to hope that. But in a virtual setting, it's so dangerous because if you're just a talking head, then people are one click away from email, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, like Reddit, like their work, right? Everything else is just one click away.
Yep.
So, and and if you are a talking head, then it's not really a meeting. You're not doing the job of connecting people, which is the point of having a meeting. If you're just going to be a talking head, then why didn't you send people a video or an email, right? You're not
Right.
really fulfilling the promise of gathering people together. So if you're going to gather people together, you really need to create some kind of interactivity. And what I like to do is what I call, and I didn't invent this term, but what I call microengagements. Another word for this is micro polling.
Oh,
So
okay.
what you're really doing is you are asking people in various ways to engage. You're sussing out, and you're actually reading the room in this way as well. And we often think that we need to have all the cameras on in
Oof.
order to read the room.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought that? This just, gives you a heart attack, doesn't it? It's like,
It
"Oh my god,
yeah.
everybody's camera's off."
Yeah, for anyone who's listening, Melissa's showing a picture of just what the person talking with their camera on, and then everyone else is just their names because there's no cameras on. Yeah, it's
There's
slightly kind of
no
scary.
cameras on. It's totally scary, and I used to think that my job as a speaker, as a presenter, as a workshop facilitator is to just get everybody to get their cameras on, and then I've succeeded in getting them to engage. But this, for anybody who can see this picture, what it's actually showing is everybody's renamed themselves in this picture,
Oh,
and
cool.
their names are showing the reason why their camera is off. And they're saying things like one person says shy, one person says bad connection, someone says mom is here, another one says embarrassed, another one says sharing space, somebody says in bed, somebody says exhausted, somebody else says who knows. Everybody has a reason for why their camera is off. And often, I've joined more meetings than I can count and not shared my camera for good reason. I had to get up super early in the morning. I had bedhead. It was ridiculous. Like nobody wanted to see me. I didn't want anybody to see me. But I was super engaged in those meetings. I was there, I was present, I was fully engaged. I wasn't looking at email. I was totally interacting, I was totally involved. So just because somebody's not sharing their camera doesn't actually mean that they're not interacting and not engaging. So, what are some ways that people can engage without sharing their camera?
Asking them questions, I would think, like getting them involved either through chat or, if it's a smaller group, like more of a team meeting, like asking questions and
There
not
you
just
go.
like wah, 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 wah the
There
whole
you go. Like
time.
chat is always a way that people can interact, or audio. If it's not a webinar format, they can interact via audio. If they're in a meeting format, like a Zoom meeting format, then they can share their camera. They might be able to share their camera if they have the technical capability and their camera's not broken or whatever. So micro engagements take advantage of the ways that people can engage and solicits those small little engagements. And you want to do that every 2 to 5 minutes.
Oh,
So, for
wow.
example, can I get a head nod? Does this concept make sense to you? Go ahead and nod your head. There you go. So
Ah.
that's a micro engagement right there. Just getting people to nod their head. Another one, can I get a thumbs up? What do you think about this concept of micro engagements? Do you think you're going to use
Oh,
this? There you go,
love it.
thumbs up. Now, and this is a fun one because you can use any kind of hand motion, hand gesture as a micro engagement. And if you mix it up, then it kind of sparks their delight. It perks their ears up like, whoa, what are they going to do next? So give me a peace sign if you like the idea of doing micro engagements, for example. Give me a peace sign. And I've used this one a lot lately. Give me some binoculars if you see, blah, 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 blah. Give me some binoculars. Or put your hand on your head. Or give me a Trekkie sign.
Oh, I
Or give
can't
me a
do that.
single finger wiggle. That one, it's hard to say 5 times fast. Single finger wiggle. Give me some jazz hands. Anything that you can think of, ask people to do that very specific thing, and it will keep them paying attention because they're waiting to like they've got their ears and eyes open. What are they going to ask for next? And then they will mimic that thing in order to show you yes or answer your question yes or no, or whatever it is that you're soliciting them for, however you're polling them. Then of course the chat. Give me a yes, give me a no, give me a one worder in the chat about how that experience was for you just now. That's a super easy one.
Yeah.
And then Zoom and a lot of different platforms nowadays have reactions buttons that we can take advantage of. And if you're very specific with those reactions buttons, that can be really fun too, to ask people to click on a very specific reaction. That can be neat. Emojis, a lot of the chat platforms have the ability to type emojis in there, and you can ask people, find an emoji that expresses how you feel or how you feel about blah, 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 or whatever. That can be fun. Scale of 1 to 5, scale of 1 to 10.
Oh,
You can
that's
use
a good one.
numbers in the chat, or you can use your hand. All right. Tell me how hungry you are right now on a scale of 1 to 5. Dana's hungry.
He has a
I
5.
just ate too, but I could always eat.
I ate fairly recently, so I'm a 0. So, and you can take a read of the room with that. And I always, given a chance, I will often get people to use their hands because it encourages people to turn their video on. And getting movement in also
Yes.
is really helpful because people are so sedentary with virtual meetings.
And they have to take their hands off the keyboard if they were
Good point.
multitasking.
Good point. Yeah. So this is a fun one. You can do a Google search for cat scale or sheep scale or dog scale, and then do a screen capture and share something like this. This is, ask people to share. For those of you who are listening rather than watching, I've got 9 squares and they're each showing a picture of a different cat with a number inside. So there's 9 different cats, each has its own number. And so I can ask people, how are you feeling today on a scale of cat? And this is a fun, unofficial start actually as well. So, then people can type in, "Oh, I'm feeling like a 9," and the 9 is the cat that's tangled up in a bunch of pink yarn.
Oh my god, I love
And
that.
it's always fun. It puts people in a smiley mood, and then we can have a little debrief about, "Oh my goodness, we have a lot of 6s. I don't even know what 6 means. 6 is the cat with its tongue out. Like, what does that even mean? I don't know. Probably means different things to different people." But it's fun, and it gets people engaged. And then the last one on this list, this is not by any means a conclusive list, but the last one on this particular list is another fun one. It's the windshield wiper scale. So if you
Ooh.
put your arm, let's see, I have to do it over here. If you put actually, I'm going to come out of my list to show you. Put your arm in the corner of your window, and now you can rotate it like a windshield wiper. So if it's parallel with the bottom of your screen, that would be a 0. And if it's parallel with the side of your screen, that would be a 10. So now you can ask any question that requires, a scale. So how are you
Oh.
feeling right now? How did you like this last activity? How are you feeling about the idea of using micro engagements? Oh my God, yes, I definitely want to use micro engagements or whatever. And you can get a nice read of the room by using that windshield wiper scale.
How do you feel? Those are amazing. How do you feel
Yeah.
about calling on people specifically?
Um, I I will do that. It really depends on the group. And I will do that. The reason that I'm hesitating is because calling on people specifically can be a great way to encourage interactivity. It can also be a way that can, depending on the group and depending on how it's used, it can make some people feel really unsafe.
Yeah.
And I feel like my number one job as a facilitator is to foster psychological safety. So that above all else. So anytime I'm calling on people, I want to make sure that I'm doing it in a way that's really inviting and going to make them feel successful and help them to enable them to feel safe being vulnerable and not feel like they're being picked on.
Yeah, I hear you talk about psychological safety a lot, and which is so important for speakers. I mean, anytime you're leading a room or a virtual room of people, you want to make sure people feel comfortable and safe.
Yeah. And it's an interesting line that we walk because I know one of the things that we need to do whenever we're helping speakers get out there is, it takes a lot of courage and it requires getting out of the comfort zone, getting
Mhm.
into that zone of discomfort, right? Which sometimes can require pushing.